In the twilight town of Duskweave, where cobblestone streets wound through lantern-lit alleys, lived Serene, a 38-year-old seamstress whose needle danced with magic, but whose spirit dimmed with exhaustion. Her shop, Threadhaven, was a haven of silks and satins, its windows glowing with intricate gowns that whispered of dreams. Yet Serene was known as the town's ever-present mender, always available, stitching torn hems at midnight, crafting wedding dresses on a moment's notice, her own needs forgotten. The townsfolk adored her for her generosity, but Serene felt hollow, her worth tied to her endless giving. Her past weighed heavy. A father who demanded perfection, a mother who vanished, leaving Serene to seek approval through self-sacrifice. Her days blurred into a cycle of service. She'd rise at dawn, her fingers threading needles before the sun touched the horizon, and work late into the night, her lantern flickering as she mended a child's torn cloak. She rarely ate, her meals cold on the counter, and her dreams were restless, filled with faceless figures unraveling her work. Serene avoided stillness, fearing the silence would unearth her buried pain. Her father's harsh words, "You're only good when you're useful," echoing in her mind. She longed to be seen as more than a seamstress, to feel valued for her essence, not her labor, but she didn't know how to stop giving. One crisp evening as the harvest moon hung low, a cloaked traveler entered Threadhaven, her presence commanding yet serene. She requested a simple mend, a tear in her shawl, but left behind a small velvet pouch tied with a golden thread. Inside was a journal, its cover embossed with a labyrinthine mandala and a note. "When you stop being available, everything changes. Jung." Serene, familiar with Carl Jung from a book she'd once glimpsed, felt a stir of curiosity. She opened the journal, its pages filled with Jungian teachings on boundaries, the shadow self, and individuation, the journey to wholeness. It spoke of scarcity as a path to value, a concept foreign to Serene's endless giving. The journal became her guide. That night, Serene dreamed of a labyrinth, its walls woven from threads of her own making, a cloaked figure at its center holding a mirror. "You unravel yourself," it said, its voice a threadbare whisper, reflecting a haggard Serene, her hands bleeding from endless stitching. She woke trembling and read Jung's words. "The shadow holds what you deny." Her shadow, she realized, was her suppressed need for self-worth, buried beneath her availability. The journal urged her to set boundaries, to become scarce, to let her absence awaken her value. Serene hesitated, fearing Duskweave's rejection, but Jung's wisdom compelled her. She began small, closing Threadhaven at dusk, refusing late-night requests. The townsfolk grumbled, their knocks unanswered, but Serene felt a flicker of freedom. She used her evenings to mend herself, stitching a tapestry of her dreams, a moonlit sea, a symbol of her longing for peace. Her dreams deepened. In the labyrinth, the cloaked figure now held a needle, guiding her to cut threads that bound her to others' demands. "Who are you without giving?" it asked. Serene whispered, "Enough." And the mirror reflected a woman with steady eyes, her hands healed. Weeks passed, and Serene's scarcity shifted Duskweave. The townsfolk, once entitled, began to value her time, commissioning gowns with gratitude, not expectation. Serene embraced her anima, her inner feminine softness, designing dresses with a tender elegance, and her animus, her inner strength, negotiating fair prices with confidence. She channeled the archetype of the creator, her work a reflection of her soul and the sage, offering wisdom to those who sought her. Her shop became a gallery, each gown a story, her presence rare but magnetic. A young baker, Talon, whose shyness mirrored Serene's past, sought her advice, his hands trembling as he offered a loaf in exchange. Serene smiled, guiding him to set his own boundaries, his bakery soon flourishing as he learned his worth. Yet shadows lingered. One stormy night, Saren dreamed of the labyrinth flooding. The cloaked figure's mirror cracked, reflecting her fear. What if they leave? She woke, doubting her path. She sought Elara, a weaver versed in Jungian thought, who said, "Boundaries spiral. Face the fear again." In meditation, Saren asked the figure, "What do you need?" "Faith," it replied, its mirror mending as she embraced her uncertainty. Her resolve strengthened, and she began hosting gatherings at Threadhaven, teaching Duskweave to value their own scarcity, their lives blooming with balance. Duskweave transformed. Saren painted her shop's walls with tapestries, labyrinths, moons, threads cut and rewoven, symbols of her journey. Her gatherings grew into a movement, with Talon and others sharing their stories, their presence shifting from endless giving to purposeful rarity. One evening, a girl, her dress torn, knocked at Threadhaven after dusk. Saren opened the door, offering a needle. "Mend it tomorrow," she said. "You're enough as you are." The girl smiled, and Saren felt Jung's truth. When you stop being available, everything changes. Your worth, your world, your soul. The journal remained on her counter, its pages worn but open, a testament to a life rewoven through Jung's timeless wisdom. The end.